was a kid, I took piano lessons, and my piano instructor was named Mrs. Zucker. Now, you've got to understand, Mrs. Zucker was very serious about the craft of piano. But I, on the other hand, was just a 14-year-old kid, and my goal for taking these piano lessons was to learn how to play Jump by Van Halen. By the end of the summer, this was my goal. So every week, Mrs. Zucker would tell me, Kay, you have to practice your scales. She told me that they were the foundation for any piano piece that I wanted to play. And every week, I wouldn't practice my scales. What I would do was, about an hour before the lesson, I'd rush and try and practice them, thinking somehow that Mrs. Zucker wasn't going to notice when I went to play the scales. And of course, she noticed, and the scales didn't sound so hot. And every week we did the song and dance, right? Like, I was supposed to practice the scales, I didn't practice the scales. And finally, I realized that Mrs. Zucker was right. I got really frustrated because I really couldn't play those piano pieces without the foundation of the scales. And as an online copywriter, I help businesses write content for their websites, their blogs, their newsletters. And what I find is just like me trying to pretend that I was doing the scales and thinking Mrs. Zucker wouldn't notice, a lot of businesses are doing the same thing with their content. They're bypassing the basics of good copywriting, and they think their audience won't notice. But the thing is, your audience does notice. And the bad thing about that is, they're not going to tell you. They just won't come back to your website. So what I want to do today is I want to talk a little bit more about copywriting and what you can do to make your content more engaging to your audience. Good writing is the foundation of any marketing plan. I like to call it the DNA of marketing. It's where it all begins. And what I want to do today is I want to talk to you a little bit about the 5 mistakes that I see businesses make with their online content. I want to give you some simple tips and strategies on how you can make your content more engaging. And then we're going to do some practice exercises so you can put into action the things that you're learning today. So the number one mistake that I see businesses make with their content is what I like to call the "it's all about me" show, right? So when you go to some business's website, you see it's all about them, right? They're talking about themselves and what they do and how great they are and what you think is great about them. And it's all about them. Now, I'm not saying that you don't want to talk about yourself on your website, but on your home page, you really want to make it more about your client instead of you. See, you're thinking, I rock, I'm awesome, I'm great, yay me. But what do you think your potential client is thinking? That's right, what's in it for me? The good old what's in it for me. So you have to make sure that you're thinking about your client. When your client comes to your website, they're looking for help. And they're looking for what I like to call varying degrees of help. So they might start out with some mild frustration, and as they're kind of surfing the internet looking for the answer to their problem, the frustration gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse, till finally they just can't take it anymore. I mean, they really, really need your help. See, you've only got about 15 to 20 seconds to grab their attention and to really engage them. And in that 15 to 20 seconds, you've got to engage, you've got to inform, you've got to build rapport. It's a lot to do. They care about their problems, and your content has to reflect this. See, they want to see that you understand their problem. They want to feel understood, and when they feel understood, that's when they'll buy. So how do you do it? How in 15 to 20 seconds do you write content that's engaging enough to really grab your audience? One of the techniques that I use with my writing and I use for my clients is using what we call pull questions. And pull questions are just what they sound like, right? They're questions that are actually going to pull your audience into your website. So one of the things that you really want to remember about a pull question is the answer to a pull question is always yes. You always want your audience to be saying yes when they read your pull questions. So I'm going to give you some sample pull questions. Sample pull questions would start with phrases like, do you sometimes have a difficult time? Or do you ever just wish you could? Or have you ever been frustrated that? Or does it ever make you feel helpless that? So when you use questions like this, you're going to really engage your audience, and they're going to feel like they see themselves in what you're writing. And when they see themselves in what they're writing and they feel that they're really understood, it's going to put you in the perfect position to be the solution provider. So in summary, you want to make sure that your homepage content is all about the client. Make it very client-focused. You want to address their problems, their frustrations. You want to make sure that you're using those pull questions to really engage them and bring them in. And again, this is going to set you up to be the solution provider. See, once you've painted that picture, then you can use other content to show how you can solve their problem. And the beautiful thing about this, which I love, is that then you don't really have to do any selling with your words. They're going to sell themselves into working with you just through your content. So now I want you to think about your clients, and we're going to do a short exercise. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about your own specific industry. And then I want you to start thinking about some poll questions that you can use on your homepage in order to engage your audience. Take a moment and do that, and then when we come back, we're going to go on to number 2, the second biggest mistake that businesses make with their content. So despite my failed attempt at piano, I still remained a music lover throughout my life. And I was fortunate enough in my early 20s to actually get a job at a concert venue, and it was called Blockbuster Pavilion, and it was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was hired as the promotions manager. And all that really meant was I got to go to a lot of free shows, and I got to hang out with the band. It was really fun, especially in my 20s and loving music. And one of the things that I found when I talked to the bands, and I met all of them, I mean, I met everyone from Sting to Lenny Kravitz, I mean, I met all different types of artists. And it was all the same, no matter what the artist. They all thought that the biggest thrill to be on stage was to actually hear the audience singing their words back to them. And that was, bar none, the biggest thrill that they all had. And, you know, I never saw such an amazing display of this until I saw Lynyrd Skynyrd come to town. Lynyrd Skynyrd came to the concert venue, and at the time, I'd never heard of them. But I was familiar with one song that they had, Sweet Home Alabama, of course, everyone knew. So when I went on the day of the show, it was the first time that I'd ever seen people come to a show barefoot with no shirts, overalls, and sticks. I mean, it was like total culture shock. And it was amazing. And I do want to let you in on something too. Now, it may shock you to know, but I looked a little out of place at the Lynyrd Skynyrd show. I mean, people were looking at me like I didn't look like all the rest of everyone there. And, you know, the funny thing about it was, it didn't even matter. Because once they hit that Sweet Home Alabama, I was up there like everybody else singing Sweet Home Alabama, and we were all singing together. And that's what you want to think about when you think about your content. I mean, you want to get to the point where your target audience is connected with you so well that they are literally singing the words to your message back to you. And when you get to that point with your business, you and your business will be totally unstoppable. I wish you all much success, and I thank you.